Yo, so this is my first video, and what I want to talk about today is doing the little jobs. And so, doing the little jobs has just weirdly, at least for me, just was the gateway to much bigger jobs, and the kind of jobs that I would usually do. But things die out for me if I just say no to little jobs. For some reason, just like, say someone offers you this gig and it's like not the best rate, and you're like, nah, and you just kind of like feel a little bit too good about it, and then you're like, and then just, things just really slow down for me. Versus if I just take it, all of a sudden things pick up and you're kind of like back in the groove. Which I don't know. It's just been an interesting pattern that I've realized. So what I think about little jobs is that, there's no job too little, right? Like, unless you're an exec, unless you're somewhere where you're just like super comfortable and in you're super set, and there's, you're making a solid income that's, giving you the lifestyle that you really want. I think if you have the time, you should always do any job that comes your way, because you never know who you're gonna meet. And that's been the most interesting thing for me, is that I met so many people that have provided me with such great opportunities, or we ended up being friends, or whatever, whatever positive thing that came out of it, from just the most random little tiny job that I could have very easily, felt too good for, and been like, oh no, man, I don't want to do that one, and that's just how I met a lot of really, really cool people. That's how I got so many good opportunities. That's how I've, and it's so interesting when you end up just like kind of like trying to trace everything. Like, you meet someone and it's just like, oh wait, actually, how do I know this person? And then you just kind of like try to trace it, and it just ends up being this like most random little gig that you would have definitely bypassed it. But yeah, I've had this policy that don't always follow, but I try to follow it for the best of my abilities, and it's never say no to a job. So, for example, right now I am on my way to a PA gig, and it's the same company that I PA'd for a couple weeks ago, and I hadn't PA'd in like 6 years. But I got offered the gig, and I was like, why not? Things were really slow. Things were absolutely dead. And the moment that I said yes to it, I showed up, and obviously you kind of like, you're kind of like iffy about it at first, because you're like, oh man, like, I haven't done this in years, and I've been doing much bigger stuff and much bigger shoots and whatever. But just put your heart into it. That's what I did. I met some really cool people who were super fun and interesting to be around, and it was a lot easier than I expected it to be. It was a lot, it was just a breeze, to be honest. Like, it wasn't like, and then all of a sudden, as soon as I said yes to this job, I had like 3-4 different texts from people that I usually work with on, like, the bigger, the bigger shoots, or like bigger positions that I usually do. And they're like, hey dude, are you available on this date? Are you? So I always feel like the little job is a gateway to getting you back in the groove, to just doing what you do best. And that's something that again, it's been something that has proven to be a pattern to me, is that if I say no to a job, then things will just kind of like die out. And maybe I'm just manifesting that to myself. Again, like, and also like during these hard times, I don't see why you should say no to something like that and just be sitting at home doing absolutely nothing, instead of just going out and making, instead of you just like going out and just making like $250, $300, whatever it is, meeting a bunch of cool people. Maybe they're lame, maybe they're cool, whatever. But, that's just something that I believe is a valuable asset, that people should just, be open to stuff like that. People should just be like, hey, this is not the most glamorous job, but it's a job, and I'll do it. So, yeah, and obviously, if you're gonna show up to a job that you're not really interested in, better not be an asshole about it. All right, don't show up and and make people feel like you're better than them or better than that position. If that's the case, then you should just stay at home. That's my 2 cents. If that's the case, then you should just stay at home. But for example, like that PA gig that I usually do a lot of photo assisting when I'm not in front of the camera. That's usually how I pay my bills. I do a lot of photo assisting. I do some camera operating, and so it's like camera and lighting that's what I got into first, and that's how I just pay my bills. And for example, like that last time that I was like PAing for this company, I ended up meeting the photographer who ended up. He's just like a really sweet dude, really cool guy. His Digitech was also like a really sweet guy, and they both shoot consistently. And I was just like, hey, by the way, I photo assist. Here's my resume. And that's just one thing, You're opening more doors for yourself. You're planting seeds. And you know what? If absolutely nothing came out of this job, then you at least made a little bit of money, and you didn't feel like a lazy piece of shit, and you got out of home. That's if there's absolutely nothing that was good that came out of it, but I'm sure there's something that was cool, and I'm sure there's something that could help you or will help you in the future, whatever. But yeah, do the little jobs. Don't be a bitch. If you show up to a little job, and again, why I'm calling them little jobs, I'm not looking down on anyone or anything like that. I just, I've been in this industry for 7 years, which is not a long time, but thankfully, I was able to do the things that I really enjoy, which, end up just being paying better, and you just enjoy more because it's something that that you just enjoy doing more, and you don't necessarily need to do things that are not required of you anymore. Like as a PA, you're kind of like a joker. You kind of, not like a, you get what I mean. Like as a PA, you're just kind of like a, jack of all trades. You kind of like gotta do everything that is asked of you. But when when you're working in a specific department, listen, you're all in the industry, you understand that. But yeah, when you're in a specific department, you're just enjoying it more. It's just cooler. It's just more fun. You're with the homies, doing something you like, being like, hey, should I put this here? Should I put this there? Yeah, making little jokes, enjoying your day. Being good at what you do. Most importantly, don't be an asshole. No one likes an asshole on set. No one likes to spend 12 hours around someone who's just not fun to be around. So that's something that I always do. I'm like, I'd rather work with a crew that is just, kind of like medium level skilled, like mid-range, but they're fun to be around, than work with a crew that's like super professional and like experts at what they do, and they're just a bunch of assholes, So yeah, don't.